need a permission to be able to. Okay, so that's good. I think it's done now. So basically, my name is Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin, and I am a journalist in Ghana, a science journalist, of course. I studied general agric science at the Polytechnic, and I went further to study agric engineering at the university. And I am almost done with my MPhil in meteo and climate science.
Nice.
So I report mostly on science, health, technology, climate change, food security, agribusiness, everything around food. I reports and so when I saw your mail, I don't know how you got my email, but when I saw your release, I was very much excited because these are things that I love to report on.
Nice.
It doesn't really matter which part of the country, the world you are. When I see things, I am motivated to talk about them. I mean, and get them publishing. So that was the reason why I contacted you guys to talk on this issue. So basically, that's why I got in touch with you to have a very quick interview.
Perfect.
On this subject.
We really appreciate your time, and I've seen some of your videos on YouTube, so definitely thank you for covering us, and looking forward to initiating the interview.
All right. Okay, so basically, I will be very much happy if you could introduce yourselves to me, and then we can begin with the interview. I have a few questions to ask concerning your work. Yeah.
Sure. So we are CB Therapeutics. We are a biotechnology company in San Diego, California. And what we've done is we have pioneered technologies around the production of expensive molecules such as pharmaceuticals and food products. So we have genetically engineered yeast cells to eat sugar, and instead of fermenting and making alcohol, they make our desired molecules. So things like CBD, which is found in hemp, things like psychedelic molecules for clinical trials, things like food products that, like protein and animal fat and things like that. We have 7 granted patents, we have 12 pending, and we're filing many others. And as of last year, we have a joint venture with Atai Life Sciences, the largest psychedelics clinical trial company in the world. And we are actively developing new molecules for them. Jacob, you want to add anything here?
Yeah, so we are, at the forefront, as you were saying, of the synthetic biology revolution. So this is basically a new way of making things in general, from ingredients for foods, for active ingredients in pharmaceuticals and even nutraceuticals. And this is a portable, scalable technology. It can beat the prices for anything else in the market for very expensive molecules. And we're very happy to be working in this field for both improving essentially like human health, and also for the positive effect that our technology has on the environment.
Alana, would you want to add something to it?
Oh, hi there, Mahmoud. I'm actually the representation for CB on the publicity side, but I'm not a member of the company's team. So I'm just going to listen in and let Jacob and share their wisdom with you, if that's okay.
Okay. So, Shay, you mentioned that these are genetically modified food that you produced. I mean, can you be specific on the type of food you produce? Can you mention some of the products that you have produced, and how are these products so important to the world?
Sure. So right now, what we have is we have developed prototypes. So we have developed proof of concept showing our technology that yes, indeed, with this technology, it is possible to make things like proteins, to make things like animal fats, to make things like vitamins and other important, supplement type molecules for the human health and human body. So again, we are obviously at the concept stage. What we're looking for is we are looking for partners to obviously commercialize this technology with. But we think that this is the future of food manufacturing because, I mean, look at what's happening in the world today. There is climate change is changing how crops are grown. Climate change is affecting animals. Climate change is affecting, production of various crops and food products. Then you have wars. For example, in Ukraine is the largest producer of wheat in the world, and of course, there's going to be a shortage of wheat. So, overall, there's a lot of issues with how food production has traditionally been done. And then, even with agriculture, there is a lot of resources that are used, such as water, nutrients, things like that. Biotechnology is relatively new in the world compared to obviously other things like agriculture and whatnot. But the promise of biotechnology is that it allows us to cut down the amount of resources that we would use to produce, let's say, for example, a kilo of something. So, you cut down the carbon emissions, you cut down on water usage, you cut down on nutrient usage to produce things in a much more efficient way. That's what we are very excited about. So, it's all about in the future how we can save on resources, but come up with the similar amount of output when it comes to developing of food products like proteins and fats and vitamins and things like that.
So these are prototypes. Have we, it means that have we tried it anywhere on the field, or have we tried it to find out whether this can really work?
Yeah, so again, it is a prototype. Of course, it needs, millions and millions of dollars to get to a point where it would be proven. But we do know that biotechnology works. I mean, the proof of that is in, I mean, look at companies like Beyond Meat, right? I mean, there are, I would say, dozens of companies that operate in the world today that make meat without animals, that make food products without any food, like in the sense that they make they're replicating milk, they're replicating protein, cheese, meat. So yeah, we know that the technology works. We know it's successful. We know it can successfully replace you know things that come from crops, things that come from animals. But the question really is, obviously, what specific application you're looking at. From our side, we think that food technology is developed enough where it is going to be the dominant force in the world for food production, 10, 20 years from now. And the reason is simple, is it's cheaper, it's faster, it's quicker, it uses less resources, it's better for the planet. So the question is, why wouldn't we use it, right? So, and we do know that it is successful, it is scalable because around the world now you can find things like meats patties, right? The meat patties that go in burgers from Beyond Meat. Everywhere in the world you go, you can find those, or at least in a majority of places you can find those. And as time goes along, this is only going to get better. So we are very confident in this technology as a whole and its application in the future for feeding the masses and obviously eliminating global hunger and things like that.
Yes, sure. The world would want to have an easy and better way of producing food for the growing
Yes.
population, but many people would want to know how would this technology help the poor out there? How are you going to continuously produce whatever you have come out with for a very, how can people actually have access to these things that you have produced? People like those of us in Africa, what is
Right.
the accessibility, and how can we get it without going through a stress or some kind of complications in we see in other areas?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I think the way that this would move forward is that the more research that's done by private companies in this space, the more efficient the process is going to be. The more efficient the process is going to be, my theory is the cheaper is going to be the price of the output, right? So if we have lots of companies, if we have lots of companies competing with each other for delivering a better product, making a more efficient product, that allows us to bring down the price of protein or fat or whatever we're making. So I think this helps the world by reducing the cost per unit cost of any type of food product, right? So whether that's meat, whether that's milk, whether that's cheese, etc. I think that's the benefit that the population at large over time will have, which is reduction of the per unit cost. Now, of course, as to how it's going to roll out, I think it would be a good thing for different countries or different universities or other places to take initiatives, right? To take initiatives like developing this technology in their own country or licensing it from other players where this can be applied in different areas. So I think there's definitely a lot of work to be done from the regulatory and governmental standpoint. But I think on the private side, what is good to know is that there is a lot of people, there's a lot of companies that are actively researching these spaces, allowing for greater innovations down the road.
So, Dr. Jacob, do you have partnership anywhere? And let me add this about the meat products and the sea product, the food you talk about. Are we gonna see some kind of reduction on people dependence of animals meat if we are able to, if these things are, we are able to get things out there and be able to produce more of your product into the public domain? Are we going to see the reduction in meat consumption or even the slaughtering of animals, in some part of the world like Ghana and Africa as well?
Yeah, so I think the key thing is to make bioidentical products to the animal products, right? Because you need the taste profile, you need the nutritional profile, and we want to make sure that we're creating a product that people, there's demand for it, right? As well as providing an environmental solution for the climate change and just over farming, and to replace the animal supply chain for food, essentially. So you're going to see a lot more alternative meat products out there using technology like ours. And we are actively looking for collaborations and partnerships in this field.
There is, I mean, the complaints out there, people are already concerned about GMO products. And we have seen people even in Europe agitating about the impact of
Can anybody hear me? Yeah, can Alana, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think it's just Mahmood that froze. Oh,
Okay.
might be back.
yes.
Oh, Mahmood, yeah, froze for a little bit.
So if you can hear me well, what I'm trying, the question is that there are agitation, there are concerns out there, especially even in Europe, where people raise concern about the product, the GMO product. I would like to know how safe it is products that you are producing, especially at when it is being done in the lab.
Look, I definitely think there are concerns. I think my view is in two ways. Number one is if you are making a product in the lab, one thing you know is it is not contaminated, right? And what I mean by that is, for example, when you go buy meat at a market, you don't know if it's injected with hormones. You don't know what other things have gone into it, right? You don't know what sort of chemicals it has been treated with before you eat that steak or that piece of chicken or whatever it is. When you're getting milk, you don't know how much of it is water, how much of it is milk. So all these things, I think from certain angles, I think it's a good thing. I think lab grown food will have standardization. It will have quality control built in to a greater degree than regular food. But on the flip side, yes, there is the concern that some of the food may be GMO. But it's better to have GMO food than to have a shortage of food, right? Is the way I look at it. Like, it's not an ideal solution. I mean, ideally, we would have a world where, all food is coming from a sustainable source, but that's not the case, right? The idealism is not reality, and I think this is a very viable and a very healthy alternative to real food in some ways, where if things do change, whether that's due to war, that's due to climate change, we have a solution. We're not in a situation where it becomes an emergency. So I think yes, in an ideal world, there would be very sustainable sources of food, but that's not the case, and things changed. Political and geopolitical climates change very often. They lead to problems, and before you know it, there may be shortages in certain commodities. So I think it's always good to have a backup. It's good to have this sort of plan for the production of these molecules and these products. And then of course, yeah, I mean, some processes may not be totally organic and natural, and that's what the world looks for in general. But it may not be a bad thing. Like I said, I mean, when you are making lab-made products, you would know and you would be able to certify them to a certain standard of quality, which may not be the case for example, animal products that you buy today. So I think there's definitely two sides to the story, and it's always important to remember that there may be use cases for technologies that may not be useful throughout for every application, but they may have a use in very certain specific applications. So I think from our perspective, it makes sense to further develop this, just because I mean there could be multiple uses for this.
Hmm. It's been 4 years since your existence, and I want us to look at the cost, how much it will cost you to produce this product. I mean, food products, how much will it cost to do that? I mean, if you can share that with us.
Yes, so I mean, we can't really go too deep into it, but I mean, in general, obviously to do this sort of work, it costs millions of dollars to do the research. It costs a lot of time and energy to be able to develop the process to even be able to make something like this, which is why you're seeing billions and billions of dollars being invested into this industry. I think the venture capitalists understand that to really drive innovation, you really have to put in a lot of money and time into any industry, right? Not just food tech. It's across the board. That's how it goes. But in general, I think for example, um, the Impossible Burger right now is more expensive than a real burger from a real cow, right? And
Mm.
one may wonder why that is the case. But I think as time goes along, and the technology gets better, and it becomes more scalable, that price is going to go down. Of course, whenever you make a brand new product, whenever you start in a brand new industry, the prices are always high, right? Eventually, there is enough research and tech and innovation in that field where the prices are brought down. So we think we are maybe 5 to 10 years away from that point where, for example, these sorts of burgers and products will be cheaper than what is being in the market. But again, we have to start today, right? We can't, wait 5 or 7 years and then wait for a food shortage crisis and then say, hey, we're going to, invest and start on this technology. No, that investment and time and energy has to be invested today if we're going to reap the benefits of that, let's say 5 or 10 years down the road.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Doc, my last question will come to you. My last two questions will come to you with regards to where we are now in Africa. We know, and I hope you know, that there is issues of food insecurity in our part of the world, and if you look at the figures, we might be, I mean, talking about bigger figures in the near future. Why have we not, I mean, always include especially African experts in some of these innovation and some of these products that you come out with? Because you realize that it is here in Africa that we have these issues because of poverty, because of war, because of other stuff. How do we get Africans involved in some of these, your activity and innovation that would help them to also be able to reduce the impact here in our continent?
That's a difficult question. I have to be honest, I've never been to that part of the world. I myself am from Pakistan, so my family lives there. Not exactly, the U.S. I've immigrated here about 18 years ago. So I definitely do understand that, yeah, there are issues globally that do arise. I think one of the problems that our countries that face is that, frankly, we're not spending a lot of money on research and innovation, and this goes across the board for even countries in the Middle East and even Pakistan, where I come from, where there are so many other issues in general that it's hard to spend money or even think about, for example, spending money on this. So we have our own set of problems, as they say, um, and it's a sad thing. That is why I moved here to the U.S. to be able to do this sort of work and this sort of research. Uh,
Mm,
but I would say, it has to come from a governmental level, right? For example, in the US, the government is subsidizing a lot of different research
mm,
for any company, maybe that's a tax break as a corporation, or other ways that help subsidize and foster innovation. I think we need to look at our own country, maybe even lobby and see if we could create a movement where this would be something where the government would be able to help out. But unfortunately, it is a very tough thing, and especially like when you're looking from a research perspective, like the sort of lab that we have set up here in California, it would be very, very difficult for us to set that up in Pakistan, right? Just because of the looking at the materials, the equipment that you would need. I mean, things like that. It would make it exponentially more complex for us to be able to carry out something like this in my own home country of Pakistan versus here in California. So I think these are definite issues. Jacob, you have any thoughts or anything you want to add here?
I think one of the key things is the portability of this technology that we're developing. That I think you will see the expansion of fermentation and precision fermentation based products around the world. And because it is portable, it can be ported to places like Africa and other parts of the world relatively inexpensively. And I think we will be able to see basically more equity in terms of being able to produce these compounds through fermentation anywhere in the world.
mm. Thank you so much. Your final words, Dr. Jacob?
Sorry, what?
Your final words.
Your final comments or any?
Yeah, your final comments.
Yeah, sorry. Well, yeah, thanks so much for speaking to us and taking the time to learn about us. It's fantastic talking to you. One of the key things, Sharon and I started this company was to, really address like human health, and it's expanded to the climate and planet health in a lot of ways. So, getting the message out there and being at the forefront of this bio revolution is very important to us, and it's going to have a very positive impact on the world.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, NURUDEEN. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much. But I would, do you have backup footages? I mean, if you have footages about your company, which I can be used, I want to use it to run the story. If I can get.
Yeah, Alana may have something or pictures or something that I'm sure she could send your way.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll email you, Mahmood, with some images, and there is actually a video in the making. It's not quite finished yet, but I can always send that to you when it's finished, which will be a few weeks from now. But thank you so much for taking the time for the interview.
All right, thank you so much. I'm so grateful.
Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah. Bye. We had a power outage.